Latest edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, who is laughing. What are we laughing about, Bill?
All right, so you've got your fancy outfit on. You got the expensive outfit on today, and I've got fashion advice I want. Do you want to do it like in one of the morning podcasts? Because we have a lot to get to, or do you want to do it now?
You're
I've been thinking about it. All right.
What do you got?
So I got CBS gives presents, right? Gives gifts to some of its employees. I got these designer shoes from CBS, right?
Ooh.
Pretty cool. Can I wear them given the fact it says CBS Sports?
Oh, absolutely.
I can.
You have to wear those and wear them around and tell people you work at CBS Sports when they ask.
I mean, like to the finals? Can I wear them to the finals? I don't think I can.
I think you have to wear them to the finals just in case they don't have, there's a little question about your credential. Be like, I have the shoes. This clearly means that I work for the company.
Okay, got one more.
Okay.
The Grizzlies sent me this. It's a hoodie. It's Triple J on the back. Am I allowed to wear this around LA? Or is that a little too much?
Yeah. No, I like that.
You like that?
A slam cover? Okay. Yeah, I like that. That one's very wear that in conjunction with your CBS Sports shoes. I think you'll get compliments on it. All right, yes, we do have a lot to get to. Later in the show, we're going to talk about the Lakers who just fell to Oklahoma City. We'll discuss the Wolves blowing a massive lead against the Bucks. Celtics and Knicks. The Knicks can just not get over the hump. They lose another one to the Celtics. But first, big day in the NBA. The Nuggets went crazy, Bill. We thought when Taylor Jenkins got fired by the Grizzlies that, man, nothing could top that madness. And the Nuggets said, wait a minute, we've got one for you. They fired both Mike Malone and their general manager, Calvin Booth, today. It is tied for the latest in an NBA season that a coach has been fired. You have to go all the way back to 1981 when poor Hubie Brown got released. It's just the third time ever, Bill, that a team has fired a coach after 70 games with a winning record. The second time was Taylor Jenkins, as I mentioned. What was your reaction to this? I was just blown away. All of a sudden, I got a message from work. Can you pop on to talk about the Nuggets? And I said, what do you mean?
I was at a very important parent-teacher conference at my kid's school, and my thought was, how does this always happen to me when I'm 10 miles from my house? Was my first thought. My second thought was, this is deja vu all over again times 10,000. Because as shocked as I was with Taylor Jenkins a week and a half ago, which feels like 3 months ago, whenever it was. I mean, this is mystifying. And I started texting people while I was talking to my teachers about my kid, and GMs and executives were writing me back, and it was the same just sort of mystification. And on first blush and on 80th blush now, several hours later, I don't know, man. It's incredible.
It's incredible. He's 2 years removed, Bill, from an NBA championship. He has the most wins in franchise history. I'm talking about Mike Malone, obviously, the most playoff wins in franchise history, and has delivered their only title. Bill, as you can see here, the past 6 NBA champions, 4 of them have been fired already. Only Steve Kerr and Joe Mazzulla remains. I mean, I guess there's still time on Joe Mazzulla. Joe Mazzulla, keep your fingers crossed. Who knows what could happen? But I'm kind of blown away here. It's one thing, like there was a lot of scuttlebutt, as our NBA insider, there was people whispering about Malone and Calvin Booth not getting along, and one of them would probably have to go this offseason. But one, I thought that it would be Calvin Booth. And 2, I thought for sure they would wait until the offseason. Yep. They decided to blow it up right before.
You didn't have April 8th, 3 games left on your firing bingo card.
Bananas.
It's bizarre, man. Like I have a little bit of news. Like I have a nugget of news. Pun wasn't intended when I said that earlier on HQ. It was intended there, a little nugget of news. I'll say it again for you so you can lean into the joke.
I liked it.
So this is not justification. I said this to Brad Botkin, I think on HQ with Brad, and I think he thought I was justifying the firing. No justification. Josh Kroenke's meandering explanation makes no sense. But just to give a little insight, I talked to somebody earlier today who is close with Calvin Booth, who said, so back in November, October, start of the year, Ramona Shelburne had reported that they were approaching and close to an extension for Booth. That was because she's an outstanding reporter, taking more or less as gospel. People aren't monitoring outside of local markets, particularly closely, the contract status of GMs who nobody thinks is anywhere near being fired. This was before, really, I think the animosity that was brewing behind the scenes between Malone and Booth sort of got front and center and came under the spotlight. But I was told that even a few months ago, these negotiations were still going on, and that in effect Booth walked away from the offer. Now, it sounds like it wasn't an offer that he wanted, that he wasn't happy with it. But even a couple months ago, as it was explained to me by a source who knows the former, now fired, now removed GM of the Denver Nuggets, even a few months ago, he was close to continuing his contract with Denver. Now, so whatever the sort of decision making by Josh Kroenke, by Stan Kroenke, by the owners of the Nuggets, it seems like it happened pretty recently. This wasn't, in terms of this decision to move on from people this drastically, even a few months ago, they were thinking about extending the GM, and Malone was under contract for a minute when they got rid of him.
So there's been a lot of discussion, whispers, rumors, people speculating about obviously the relationship between the two of those guys not being good, and them like really not talking much, and ownership deciding basically like, we've had enough of this. We're not only going to get rid of one of you, we're going to get rid of both of you and just start this thing over. Now, I, like you, would have said, hey, let's hold on a second and wait until the offseason. Now, Josh Kroenke, son of Stan, who is nominally in charge of this team, had some comments about it. Here's what he had to say about why they decided to make this move now.
Having observed that group over a period of time, there were certain trends that were very worrisome to me at different points in time, but they would get masked by a few wins here and there. And in the world of professional sports, when winning and losing is your currency, winning can mask a lot of things. We went on an eight game win streak right before the All-Star break. But since then, I think we're 11-13. We've lost our last 4, and we're trending towards a direction that I thought would probably be a very near end to our season in the near future.
Trending toward a near end to their future, to their season, Bill, in the near future, but this will quite clearly reinvigorate this team. They've lost 4 in a row, and I'm sure that like firing the coach and the general manager is going to be noticed by teams. Josh Kroenke also added after that he wanted to create a spark and squeeze more out of the team, and then
squeeze more. Said it a couple times
out of the team, and he said that he talked with his dad Stan, and they had already decided that they were going to make this move this offseason. So they decided to then just like move up the timeline because they were on a 4-game losing streak going into the end of the regular season as the playoffs approach. Are you buying any of this?
No, nothing. And I went to college. Fun fact with Josh Kroenke. We went to the University of Missouri
college
together. I went to college. We did it. I knew the guy a little bit. So, no, I'm not buying any. Look, there is no explanation that you and I are going to give that is going to bring any logic or reason to what is an unreasonably timed decision. I can give you I'm sort of looking at my phone here. I can give you speculation, right? So somebody that knows Michael Malone well, before Kroenke spoke, hit me up. A bunch of people hit me up. And by the way, there were words like bizarro, stupefied. I still am mystified from somebody that texted me. And 2 people just called it stupid as I was texting people their reactions.
Yeah, I'm on board with all those.
Yeah, multiple stupids. Someone did say to me before we sort of had context, and they're friends with Malone, that he is, a hothead, and that they sort of trying to speculate could have seen a difficult conversation where he didn't respond well, tempers flared, and whoever it was moved on from in part because of that. But obviously now with Booth gone too, this was an ownership situation. Now, do you want me to venture to go inside the brain of the Kroenkes, which is not a safe space necessarily or a competent one? But
sure, yeah, let's do it.
Here's my thoughts on their reasoning. Brad Bakken, I'm not endorsing this. I'm just trying to explain what I think is going on. So from Booth's perspective, I do think that you can make the case that he did not properly build a championship roster around you.
Sure.
Good. Now, his pushback reportedly, and there's been some really good reporting on this out there, is that he wanted sort of like the Warriors 2 tracks on steroids with animosity. He wanted the young players played and didn't want the vets played and thought they would be further along.
Can we just pause on that for a second?
Yeah.
You know what? The Mike Malone component, and we can dig more into this, and I want to talk about him being a hothead and things of that nature. I don't understand the Mike Malone component. The Calvin Booth component, Tim Connolly built this team.
Yes.
Okay. Calvin Booth, this narrative that Calvin Booth wanted to do a 2 tracks thing and play some of the young guys. Who are we talking about outside of Christian Brown?
I'm with you.
You're talking about Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther? No thanks. I mean, like those guys, they keep
Christian Brown's the one hit he gets. That's the one hit.
And Christian Brown has been good, and they're going to have to figure that out and whatever. But like when you're trying to force feed everybody, Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther, sorry, man, we've watched those kids play, and I'm not buying it.
Nobody in the NBA is buying it. Nobody in the – I mean, this is – so here's the other thing that I will say. And again, I'm not defending Booth. I'm just trying to give some context. When I'm talking to GMs all the time, there's right when you're trying to get people to talk to you about information that maybe they don't have to share, you want them to be comfortable. And what does everybody love to complain about other than you and I, John? Their bosses. I mean, everybody's great at CBS. And so I spent a lot of time talking to GMs about how difficult it is to manage guys that own NBA teams. And certainly this has been true for 10 years, and certainly a theme that has emerged, and Matt Ishbia is, I think, the poster child for this, and people reference this, is it is harder, GMs will tell you, that to manage their bosses now than 10 years ago. That you've got the sons of owners who are coming into the mix and sort of wreaking havoc and think they're experts. See Josh Kroenke, see the family in Atlanta, give you a bunch of examples. You've got people who think they're the smartest person in the room, even on basketball matters. See Matt Ishbia. So again, I'm not defending Booth, but certainly there are people today suggesting to me that this is why we're seeing people get fired in these bizarre ways late in seasons. I mean, Mike Brown wasn't even that sensible. It is in part because there's so much pressure on GMs now because the owners are much more involved, and current GMs would tell you not as good at sort of managing their front offices and leaving them alone as they were 10 or 15 years ago.
The Nuggets were already in a really tough spot, considering their cap situation, the assets they have to move out, the lack of young players, despite what Calvin Booth would have you believe. Now, all of a sudden, they're looking for not only a head coach, but also a general manager going into a critical offseason. So much to dissect here. We're going to take a quick break. I want to get into the state of the franchise. I want to get into what Joker's reaction might have been. You had mentioned Mike Malone and how he can be difficult to deal with. He had some comments after a Portland Trailblazers game like less than a month ago. We want to play those. And then we've got all those games that happen tonight. We got to check in on the standings. So much to get to. Don't go anywhere. This is Beyond the Arc.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
To be on the Arc, a reminder, you can get us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Download, subscribe, leave a review on Spotify. Look below the play button on the Spotify app. You can leave us a question. Before we get into the state of the franchise, let's do the Mike Malone component. So like maybe this was building. He was obviously very, very frustrated about this whole thing. And I guess I didn't see it coming. I don't think he saw it coming, because who in their right mind would say, let's fire the guy who won a championship 2 years ago, who was our all-time winningest head coach right before the playoffs? It's crazy. But now in retrospect, people were putting this up on social media. So like less than a month ago, they had a bad loss to the Blazers, although the Blazers, plucky, maybe not that bad a loss, but still.
Not as bad now in retrospect. But
but you should beat the Blazers. And he was frustrated. And this is what he had to say.
I think each guy's got to look themselves in the mirror and start coming to each respective game with the proper mindset and have some pride. I didn't think we played with any pride tonight.
How do you feel like they took that?
I really care. It's not my job to evaluate how they take things. My job is to be honest, and sometimes brutally honest. And tonight, it was a brutally honest message. And the guys that are full of shit won't hear it. You know, they'll say, Coach is tripping. And the guys that maybe do really care will, because they're not going to go back and watch their minutes, because nobody watches their minutes. Nobody watches film. So we'll have to show them the film. And I said, if somebody disagrees with me, please speak up. And nobody said a word. So, again, I'm not really concerned with how they took that message. My thing is being honest with how we just played.
All right, so earlier we were talking about how I could sort of make a case for what the Kroenkes are thinking, even though I don't. This is the brutal honesty he's referring to includes the fact, and he's telling on himself, he lost the locker room. I mean, and that is, I wouldn't fire him. I think it's idiotic, but it is a reason people get fired. He had clearly lost the locker room. That is obvious.
Who do you think he's talking to there? Because like, talk about brutal honesty.
I know.
I mean, he's saying that guys don't watch tape. They're not paying attention. Yeah. Who do you think he's talking about?
I mean, how many times has Russell Westbrook gone somewhere and it doesn't work and a coach gets fired? And I'm just saying,
all right.
I think I know he wanted to play Westbrook, but I think Westbrook's part of that conversation.
That might be true, but you got bigger problems than Russell Westbrook, because it's not Mike Malone's fault that Michael Porter Jr., who you and I have been waiting on for since you and I started doing this show, to take the next step. A guy who has all the tools, who's big, who's fast, who's strong, who's hyper athletic, who can shoot the ball, to just like get to like all-star level, hasn't gotten there. It's not Mike Malone's fault that Jamal Murray has been super inconsistent and has a hamstring that flares up. And
I agree with you, but development's part of a coach's job. I mean, I'm with you, but I don't know you can just dismiss it out of hand.
I mean, okay, all right.
It's somebody's fault.
Sure. Okay, but I would put it more on Michael Porter Jr. to take that next step. Yeah, you absolutely have to put Michael Porter Jr. in the best position to thrive, but I still would. There's a lot more onus on the player than there is on the coach. I mean, Jamal, those guys are never. Let me put it this way: it's not Michael Malone's fault that there's only one All-NBA and All-Star caliber player on that roster being Joker and nobody else.
And if you believe the reporting coming out of Denver, it's not entirely the former GM's fault, because there is a lot of credible reporting from local reporters. I don't have this confirmed, that ownership, the Cronkies, said to Booth, hey, we don't want MPJ traded a couple weeks, which is the obvious solution. And you and I, as you said, discussed it. And so here's the thing. If you have a bad owner, which they may have in Denver, and you have an overrated GM who didn't actually build the championship team he's getting some of the credit for, and you have a coach who's lost the locker room, maybe through reasons that are no fault of his own, but has. I mean, John, you're going to get the absolute, excuse my language, but we already had a swear word from Malone. You're going to get the shit show that we have in Denver today.
Quick aside, because I want to get into the state of the franchise and what Joker's reaction would be about this. Quick aside, did you know that Stan Kroenke reportedly has like a penthouse suite at the arena in Denver?
Oh, yeah.
You did know about this. Why didn't anybody tell me before today? Because all of a sudden apparently it's got a swimming pool and like it's multi-level and the whole bit.
Oh, it's like, in fairness, the Hunts have that in Kansas City when they're there and they're doing okay. But yeah, it's supposed to be amazing.
It reportedly has a dedicated napping room, which as somebody who is pro nap, I want that.
I love naps.
I need to be a billionaire to get this. All right. So now you look at the Nuggets, Bill. They lost 4 in a row. They are closer to the play-in than they are to the 3 seed. They just fired the general manager and their head coach. They just paid Jamal Murray 4 years and over $200 million. They've got 2 years left of MPJ at $80 million. They have one tradable first-round pick in 2031, and the only young asset they have that's any good is Christian Brown, who's going to be a restricted free agent after next season. So they're going to have to pay him too. Dude, all of a sudden this goes from you and I going, well, they've got Joker and all they have to do is get in, like anything can happen in the tournament, to long-term. I look at this thing and go, I don't know how they make this team better. And Joker has been a very loyal guy to Denver and says that he wants to stick around. But do you think that there's any chance that he looks at this and goes, it is kind of a shit show? Like maybe he puts his hand up.
I think you make great points, and I'll add a couple that I think push back on the immediate conventional wisdom that this is this great job, and if you're a GM or a coach, it's a bad job. Yeah, I mean, and this isn't my thought. It was someone else's thought, and I can't remember whose it was on social media, so I apologize to whoever I'm stealing from, but it was just a good idea. If you have a guy in Jokic who is the best player on earth, and by the way, he's having one of the best NBA seasons of all time, and you've already won a championship, so you have proof of concept. You won with a pretty mediocre defense and not a razzle-dazzle roster, and you're not willing to go into the tax and spend money and invest to win a championship in this window, that's an ownership group that's never going to invest the way you have to win a championship. And so, I mean, I don't think it's a very good job. Jokic notwithstanding, Nikola being on the team notwithstanding, I don't think it's there aren't many GM jobs. There are only 30 of them, so you take it if you need one. But I've seen Bob Myers' name floated around. Why would you want this job if you're Bob Myers? You go from having a great ownership group that spends all the money in the world to a cheap ownership group. You go from having a generational star who had a bunch of years when Myers was there to having a guy in Jokic who you worry. There were betting odds that came out on his next team today. I don't know if you saw this. And it's if he's traded. The Lakers are the first team. The second 2 teams are in Serbia, followed by the Raptors. So you don't even know Jokic, right? The racehorses. What's he want to do? So it's just, this thing is a mess and a bad job.
I saw everybody making jokes about how they have to go buy him a pony to get him to stick around and all this stuff. But the fact that the second and third highest odds are Serbia is not surprising, because we've seen Jokic, they won the championship and he's they had to convince him to stick around for the parade because he wanted to go back to his harness racing stuff in Serbia. and wanted to leave early and drink beer.
I was at that press conference. Everyone's like, yeah. And he was like, I want to go home. Like,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, like, so
cool.
That's why I'm saying, like, now I mentioned this on social media today, and I got a bunch of Nuggets fans in my mention saying he'll never ask out. He's a loyal guy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't know, man. This thing is going to be really hard to fix because, again, Jamal Murray is a good player, but he's been inconsistent over these last couple seasons. MPJ has not taken that step forward. Aaron Gordon is useful to the extent that Aaron Gordon does Aaron Gordon stuff, but fine. Christian Brown, yes, he's been a very, like, he's going to be on the list of people who could potentially be most improved this season. I don't think he'll win the award. He's a nice player, but he's not an all-star caliber player. This is a very difficult team to fix right now, which is why I think if I'm Joker, I'd at least entertain it. Remaining schedule here, Bill, as they try to like right the ship going into the playoffs. They've got the Kings next up. They're at the Kings. Then they're home against the Grizzlies, which is a team that they are jockeying position for. And
John Morant's playing great basketball.
John Morant is playing great. And then they're at the Rockets. The Rockets are on the verge of clinching the 2 seed. They might sit people, but that's not an easy schedule to finish this up. Bill, if they fall into the play-in, there's non-zero chance that 1, they fall into the play-in, and 2, don't get out of it. What a disaster that would be.
I mean, and by the way, maybe the pattern doesn't hold, but we just saw Memphis obviously fire their head coach, and they lost 3 games in a row, right? They weren't playing great. They had just, I think, lost a game. It's not as if that gave them an immediate honeymoon effect. There's chaos. There's uncertainty. You don't know how people are going to respond. There's no guarantee in those games, John, come what may, with whether Houston sits people and the fact that the Kings are kind of where they are, that the Nuggets are going to respond well.
We should mention, by the way, that the replacement interim coach is David Adelman, son of Rick, who's been rumored as an NBA head coach for a while, that people have been sniffing around. We'll see whether or not he sticks long term.
That's a lot of pressure.
How much he might change. Maybe it is just a culture change. Maybe it's a philosophical change in terms of how they're playing basketball.
In 3 games?
He has so much on his plate. I would be losing my brain right now if I was him. I mean, it's kind of like one of those situations where you go, gee, thanks for making me head coach. Like, I wouldn't feel great about it. Let's take another break. And then on the other side, we've got so much more to talk about. The Knicks had a game tonight. They lost again to the Celtics. The Lakers in Oklahoma City played. Wolves blew a huge lead to the Bucks. We'll check in on the Western Conference playoff picture. And again, as I mentioned, the Knicks' inability to beat any of these top teams. That's coming up. This is Beyond the Arc. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. Hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and there's a bell symbol. If you guys click on that bell symbol, you'll get notified when we go live. As the playoffs come around, we're going to do a ton of live shows after games, so come and join us for those. What do you want to do first? You want to do the Knicks blowing it, or you want to do the Western Conference?
You took your fancy sweater off.
I'm getting heated talking about basketball.
Yeah, excited. Start wherever you want. Where you want to go?
You know what? Let's start with the Knicks. We'll do the Eastern Conference. We haven't done the Eastern Conference in a while. The Knicks are locked into the 3 seed. It looks like they're going to end up with the Pistons. They've got the Pistons coming up later this week. They've got a back-to-back on Thursday and Friday. Pistons on Thursday, and then the Cavs on Friday. But Bill, this season, as we all know, they haven't been able to beat the Cavs, the Celtics, Oklahoma City. If you add in Golden State and the Lakers, they're now 0-13 against those teams because they lost tonight in overtime by 2.
Good game.
They had this game. It was a great game, but this was one of those situations where the Celtics were like, we could see if we can win this game, but it probably means a lot more to the Knicks than it means to the Celtics. And they had it until at the end of regulation. Jason Tatum hit a step back 3 on OG Anunoby to send it to overtime. And then the Knicks end up losing this. Bill, I don't know if it's look, they're just obviously not as good as these other teams, but there might be some sort of mental block here too. That was a brutal loss.
And they had moments in that game where they looked, by the way, Jaylen Brown also didn't play a lot, wasn't very good when he played, is still banged up.
Curious about his minutes.
Yeah. So he's a little banged up. I mean, he's a little like, there are some concerns about his sort of health going to the playoffs, but they didn't have, this is the thing about Boston, right? So I keep saying, and I think you agree that they're still the team to beat because even when you don't have one guy, there's Porzingis just hitting 35-foot 3-point shots to just
he was incredible tonight. I had no answer for him.
No, he was guarding Brunson. I mean, it was just, whatever. That team is insane. The mental block thing is interesting. It's one game. I'm going to overreact to one game. I know they went to over. They're just not as good as Boston. Boston was in second gear, and the Knicks were in fifth gear. And it was still like a close overtime game where, to your point, Boston a couple times goes, all right, let's just put some effort in. We'll get up 8, and then we'll get lackadaisical again. All right, now it's close again. Boston doesn't have to put in the same effort to compete at the level they did tonight against the Knicks team that was trying really hard to win that game.
I thought you're exactly right. Like Bridges was playing. There was multiple plays where Bridges was playing some absolutely unbelievable defense. And Reggie Miller called it out on the broadcast where he's like, that was incredible defense by Bridges, but it was just better offense by Tatum. And I'm like, okay, you have 2 fantastic wing defenders in OG and Bridges. And those guys were playing at an incredible level tonight. And still Tatum was getting his shots, right? Even if at that point, you got to look at that and go, well, what are we supposed to do if we're the Knicks? Like, how do we combat this team? We don't have the answer for this team. And Bill, like they get Brunson back. Brunson looked much better tonight.
They look great.
Came back.
Oh, they look good.
That's a great takeaway from them, right? But again, you play the best defense you can possibly play. Brunson looks great. Karl Anthony Towns was a negative defensively, but good offensively in this game. And still, they play.
Brown's absent. He's an absentee player. Yeah.
And they're 0-13 against the Cavs, Celtics, Oklahoma City. You and I have talked about it. So, we thought a lot of people talking about, oh, this is the inevitable second round matchup. If the Knicks get past the Pistons, and I think that's an if. Like, do you get
you and Shaq?
I don't give.
Shaq called that today too.
This is a very, very difficult series for them, and I don't see any way that they win it.
The 0-13 record you're citing, I think, reinforces what you and I have talked about over the last 3 or 4 weeks, that if you take the 3 elite teams in the NBA, right? If you take the Cavs and the Celtics and the Thunder out west, and then you take whoever the top 2 or 3 teams are in the Western Conference, and it's hard to sort of assess where you put Denver now because of Michael Malone and all the chaos, but you certainly put the Warriors in that group. And you sort of try to figure out the separation between those sort of Western Conference teams, the elite teams, and then the Knicks. I think it's a big drop-off. You drop the Knicks into the Western Conference, and they are absolutely in the play-in. I think they're fighting as a play-in basketball, and everybody's a fight. I mean, right now the Warriors, I think, as we're speaking, are
Warriors are playing team right now. Yeah.
They beat the Suns, right? They can flip. So I just don't think the Knicks are. I don't think that they are on the level that we might think if you just sort of glance at the standings or you look at their roster. They're good, but I don't think they're extraordinary.
Knicks fans aren't going to want to hear that, but that's exactly right. And when you mention, and we'll talk about the Western Conference now, that the Knicks would be a play-in team in the Western Conference, that's no disrespect because, yes, the Warriors are playing right now as we're recording this, but the Warriors are a play-in team. The Timberwolves, who had been on a heater, they blew. Let's start with the Timberwolves. They
brutal.
Point lead tonight, Bill, to the Bucks. And when you're jockeying for position with the Warriors, the Clippers, the Grizzlies, who won tonight and have moved out of the play-in into the playoffs proper, they're not tied with the Denver Nuggets. They're in the 5 seed, just behind the Nuggets in terms of tiebreakers there. But when you're the Wolves, man, like that is a brutal, brutal loss. Losing a 24-point lead to the Bucks, that could really cost you.
The Bucks have won 5 in a row. They're playing much better defensively at the end of games. I'm not. Or do you want to buy some no. Bucks stock? You want to buy some Milwaukee stock? All right.
I mean, sure? Right now they're in there. It looks almost certain that they're going to be in the 4-5 matchup with the Pacers. You're not taking them over your Pacers.
Dude, my Pacers look good.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
on a heater, baby.
We don't know, 1, if Dame's going to be back, and 2, for how long. Like, well, who knows? Maybe he comes back. Maybe he can't continue back. We have no idea what the Dame situation is. Giannis is Giannis, and Kuzma has been better recently. I'm not buying the Bucks at all.
Okay, I'm not either. It was such a weird game because Minnesota had it. It was over. So I was basically watching Knicks Boston largely the 3 games to kind of keep
me too.
I was largely keeping an eye on the Timberwolves game because I'm just, as much as Lakers Thunder is like a really interesting game, I know the Thunder. I got the Thunder. I got that figured out. I was sort of interested in watching the Timberwolves, how they would do against a Bucks team. I don't buy into either, but have been playing better and been winning games. And then I kind of stopped watching. I just was focusing on Knicks Celtics, and I looked down. I was like, "What the hell? What the hell happened?"
That is a brutal loss for the Wolves. And I mean, this really puts the Warriors in the driver's seat. You know, ahead of tonight, they've got 3 games left. Warriors have the tiebreaker now and the easier schedule. The Wolves are going to be absolutely kicking themselves if they end up in the play-in because of this thing. Elsewhere tonight in the Western Conference, Bill, you mentioned Oklahoma City. You have them figured out. They've got the Lakers figured out. Or at least they did tonight. They ended up winning that game. Lakers go into the fourth quarter with a lead. They come out losing it. They're now 44-5. It was just their fifth loss, Bill, losing a game after going into the fourth quarter with a lead. I don't know if you saw this. They tossed Luka. So Luka got an early technical.
Yeah.
And then he got another technical late when he was jawing at a fan, and the ref was over by where in the vicinity of where the fan was, and thought that Luka was jawing at him, teed him up and tossed him. And I was like, that's
what are you doing?
Inexcusable by the official. Inexcusable.
And I am 94% sure that that's the fan that Luka always kind of does. Like, I think they have like a sort of jocular thing where when he's in Oklahoma City, he talks smack to this guy. I'm pretty sure that's. Yeah, I mean, dude, the officiating, I don't want to be the guy that harps on the officiating, the gut of the officiating. When every game matters, and we're talking about the Western Conference and how crowded everything is, seeding's on the line, and particularly trying to avoid playing all this stuff, avoid playing the Thunder, you cannot kick Luka Doncic out of the game when the game's on the line.
I mean, that is a huge game, and it does have seeding implications because the Lakers, I mean, the Thunder locked up the first seed a while ago, but the Lakers are obviously still jockeying for position with the Nuggets, the Grizzlies. The Clippers aren't out of it. The Warriors are still around.
If you fall to 4, you can play the Thunder in the second round. I mean, it's hugely critical.
Hugely critical. I would be really ticked off. Obviously, Luka was not happy about it. The Lakers were not happy about it. Oklahoma City, there was some question, Bill, about whether or not they'd be playing their guys in this game because, again, they have the 1 seed locked up. They decided to play their guys because they just lost to the Lakers in the last game over the weekend. Lakers had their number. Lakers come into Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, I think, that's one of those scenarios, Bill, where I think Oklahoma City wanted to let's just prove it to ourselves. Luka, LeBron, they just beat us. We're going to run all our guys out there and show them, hey, no, we're the team to beat. Everybody keeps speculating, you got to show us in the postseason. We're going to show you right now.
I also think guys get up to play LeBron James. I mean, I think that's a real thing. Oh, and Luka, yeah. Let me ask you a question. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about you because you like percentages. You like numbers. I'm going to try to basketball reference computer this thing, okay? I'm going to try to get my psychological clutch question under the guise of numbers. Okay. How many teams that can actually that could play the Thunder in this postseason? So not the Suns, not the Mavs. Not the Suns, not the Kings, not the Mavs. How many teams do you think would beat the Thunder if they played a 7-game series 3 times? Would beat them once, a puncher's chance. I think Warriors. The Lakers are on that. Warriors, Lakers, Timberwolves.
I don't think I'd go. I think it's Warriors and Lakers.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, look. I love the Rockets and their defense, but I don't think
it's not the Rockets.
I don't think they could muck it up long enough to make it. And last week when you and I were doing our contenders draft, I took the Nuggets first after the big 3. Now I'm not sure that I'd even consider the Nuggets, considering everything.
I don't even know I don't know how the Nuggets make the conference finals, lose in the play-in. Sure, it's all. Nothing surprises me now.
Anything could absolutely happen. So I was on HQ earlier today with Katie Mox, and she asked me this question, so I'm going to put it to you too. So the Lakers obviously have 2 guys in LeBron and Luka who have been to the finals. LeBron's won multiple. Luka took the Mavs team last year, looked really good coming out of the Western Conference. They've done it. They've been playoff tested. You've got 2 guys who know what they're doing. And then you've got Oklahoma City, who by every metric is having an historic season. They've got an unbelievable defense. Net rating's going to be the best of all time. Point differential is going to be the best of all time. They're probably going to have the MVP. They're really outstanding. Who do you trust more this postseason? The team that's done it all year or the guys who have the experience?
All right. So we've talked about this.
Yeah.
The Lakers are not very good defensively since the trade deadline. Like just statistically speaking, they're not very good. And I mean, Luka's done it. Look, he's done it. He's made an NBA Finals. So is Chris Paul once. I mean, I don't know. Does that make you a closer? Does that make you like the guy in those moments? I don't know that it does. So I would weight LeBron a lot. LeBron for me is 88% of that equation, and the fact Luka's there means LeBron's on a team where this is a reasonable.
I guess this is really are you finally coming around on? Yes, they haven't gone out of the second round yet, but this team, Oklahoma City, is a good team or not?
So I think we talked about this, but I've got like this GM in my ear who keeps telling me that Shea's, I haven't looked this up and I need to, that Shea's ISO numbers go way up in the playoffs and the offense stalls a lot in the postseason. So that I'm not as high on the Lakers. So I'm going to go Lakers is the answer to the question. If it's a game set, if it's a game 7. So like, I think the Thunder can blow them off the floor, but if they don't, because LeBron's the kind of guy that if you demoralize him, he doesn't happen often, but LeBron can kind of give up the ghost. I mean, as his mood goes, so goes his teams, and he's so talented that almost never happens. If I'm the Thunder, you want to win that thing in 5 or fewer, 5 or 4. If it goes 6 or 7, if it gets stressful, then the advantage goes to the guys who've been there.
I believe in Oklahoma City. I mean, you know, at some point before you experience something, right, like or do something, there's that period of time where you haven't done it yet. Eventually, I believe that they will do it and they'll get over the hump, and at the very least, that they'll make it to the conference finals. They do have, look, it's going to be a difficult path in the Western Conference, no matter who you draw.
But this is.
We have a very large sample size to say that Oklahoma City is absolutely for real. And yes, last year the offense stalled in the second round, especially. And also Jalen Williams wasn't as good, but they got another year under their belt. And, you know, they're not numb to that. Chet Holmgren also is healthy. They've got Isaiah Hartenstein. They've got Alex Caruso. These are all guys that weren't around. And now they are.
I agree. Look, we've had this conversation so many times. I agree. Here's the thing. They're the best version that I can remember of this kind of a team where they're clearly the best team in the NBA, or at least in their conference, but they're still unproven. And what happens? That usually doesn't translate to success for a while. The Celtics took a long time. I mean, how many times did incarnations of teams did Brown and Tatum sort of go through before they broke through? That said, last year's Celtics team was historically great, and it sort of makes sense in retrospect that they broke through. And this year's Thunder team is pretty historically great. I mean, you and I talked about best net rating of all time. I think you said on HQ, I did best point differential of all time. Is that the other stat you dropped? So they're probably the real deal. They're probably legit. The problem is there is a scenario where they just haven't done it, and that catches up to them. And I still think the West has a bunch of landmines. I'm not sure there's a single matchup that the Thunder are going to play that are as easy as it should be when you're the 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to win, right? It's hard to win a championship. It's hard to get out of the West. Aaron asks a provocative question here. Oklahoma City, you and I and everybody else agree that they're the best regular season team, but it's hard to get through the playoff gauntlet. Playoffs are different. Over under a half. He's setting the over under on totals for this Oklahoma City era at a half.
I mean, I'm going to go over, but I'm not crazy comfortable about it.
Aaron's going under, but I'm taking the over. I think they're going to get one.
You also never know what's going to emerge, or you don't quite. I mean, nobody, unless they're lying, really saw the Warriors coming at the level that they did, right? I'm trying to remember. That was supposed to be the Clippers Western Conference eventually, right? The Lob City Clippers. I mean, the Warriors were interesting as a playoff, and then they were the best team, or one of the best teams we've ever seen. And so you don't know if Durant goes to the Rockets or Giannis forces his way somewhere, or it all just works out and insert one of the places, whatever, Memphis.
Joker becomes a Laker.
Joker becomes a Laker. They bring in a GM who actually trades MPJ and manages up at the Cronkies, and they're like, we know what we'll do? We're going to try something crazy. We're going to surround Jokic with all-stars and just see if that could work.
And through all this craziness that we're talking about, all these things that have happened, by the way, don't forget tomorrow, Wednesday, Luka goes back to Dallas tomorrow night. So we've got that whole circus that's going to happen in the NBA. It has been an absolutely wild NBA season, and the playoffs aren't even here yet. So stick with us. Like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of live shows. So come and join us on YouTube. You can find us at Beyond the Arc CBS. I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Wild day in the NBA. More coming up for the rest of the. There you go. Throw up the Triple J Slam hoodie that you got from work. I want one of those. Have them send me one too. Be sure to check us out as the playoffs approach. That's going to do it for us now. For our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, I am John Gonzalez. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you next time.